Their lives are always in somebody else's hands.
I'm afraid of dying in here.
Zero tolerance. A different world. Which only the strongest endure.
Life is tough, but life in prison is a different ballgame. Rights are taken away, and you are faced with the harsh reality of your crimes. But what happens when you are in some of the world's toughest prisons? Well, let's look into what the life of prisoners look like in the 12 most toughest and dangerous prisons in the world. 12. Prison Bmarsh. Located in Thamesmead, southeast London, England, His Majesty's Prison, also known as HM, is used for high-profile cases like serial killing and other issues concerning national security. The prison became operational in 1991 and held its first AA prisoner, Ronnie Field, who was an armed robber. But he didn't stay alone for long because they soon brought other prisoners to join him. Members of the Arif firm and those who were involved in the £10 million Gatwick Airport diamond heist joined him in the prison. However, HM did not climb the ranks to become one of the worst prisons in the world just by holding high-profile prisoners. Their treatment of inmates and lack of communal activities earned them a spot in this video. The cells contain a bed, toilet, and a sink, providing inmates with basic amenities. The entire prison is the most secured in the UK, consisting of multiple checkpoints, motion sensors, and CCTV cameras, so escaping is near impossible. Prisoners are provided with basic skills training to prepare them for life outside if they are ever released. After each training session, each prisoner is led back to their cell by guards who ensure inmates are not able to have any conversations between themselves. The prison was home to Julian Assange, who was arrested for conspiracy to hack a government computer. He has since been released, but it doesn't change the condition of the prison. But despite how bad HM Prison is, it doesn't come close to the treatment meted out to prisoners in this New Mexico prison. 11. The Penitentiary of New Mexico, USA. The Penitentiary of New Mexico, located in Santa Fe County, USA, is a maximum security men's-only prison. The prison consists of 3 different categories, which are Level 5, Level 6, and Level 2, and prisoners are assigned to each category depending on the severity of their crimes. The PNM was first authorized in 1853, and there is a legend surrounding its existence. Legend says that the people of Santa Fe were asked to pick between building the penitentiary or building the region's first university, and they went for the penitentiary. What's the moral of this story? We'll never know. But it became the western state to employ inmates to build a highway. Despite setting a record that made it seem like they cared about the well-being of the inmates, the condition of the prison was quite the contrary. The first riot in the prison happened in 1922. Inmates protested against overcrowding, bad food, and use of excessive force by the officials. But almost they were hell-bent on proving their point. The prison officials went ahead to use excessive force again to get them to keep quiet and opened fire on the protesting inmates, killing 1 and injuring 5 in the process. Since the request of the prisoners fell on deaf ears, another riot happened in 1956. This time, they were protesting against the use of excessive force, and they took 12 officials hostage. The resulting fight led to the death of 2 guards, but it led to the building of a new unit called the main unit. It was a bigger prison that could hold the amount of prisoners they had, and the former penitentiary was demolished. But this wasn't the end of the riots, as despite having a new center, they soon became overcrowded again. Overcrowding can cause agitation, as was evident in this jail, and the ensuing riot was one of the worst in any US correctional facility. It lasted for 2 days, claiming the lives of 33 inmates and seeing 12 officers being held hostage. Inmates were murdered, butchered, and hung up on the cells and burned alive. The riot was put under control, and the section where the gruesome murders occurred was named the Old Main. Now the prison doesn't have as many riots as before and is more focused on prisoner education than the use of excessive force. But even during its days of riots, it was nothing as bad as what is considered one of the worst prisons in India. 10. Mumbai Central Jail, India. The Mumbai Central Jail was first built in 1926, and it wasn't a central jail nor as bad as what it is now. It was first called Arthur Road Prison before being converted to a central jail. One would think that this upgrade would also mean an upgrade in the lives of the prisoners, but if anything has happened, it has only been a downgrade. The prison was built with a capacity of 800, but now contains over 2,000 inmates. It houses some of the most dangerous gang members and rapists. Considering that India currently has a high number of rape cases, it is no surprise that the prison continues to see a high influx of prisoners. A day in the life of a prisoner at the Mumbai Central Jail would look like waking up in an overcrowded room to the stench of sweat. Then they would be served breakfast that would likely make them sick later on. If you are a new prisoner in this jail, you will definitely be exposed to sexual exploitation. In 2020, an inmate under trial committed suicide, and in his note, he revealed that the prison officials use the older inmates to intimidate new ones. To what end? Probably to spread fear amongst the prisoners, and it works. If new inmates aren't scared of getting injured in a gang clash, they are scared of getting raped by fellow prisoners. It is all about the survival of the fittest among the 3,800 prisoners trying to be boss in an 800-capacity prison. What's even more insane is that there are only 4 doctors available for that many prisoners, so this jail is a hub of diseases and death. Despite it being a prison with the worst criminals, there is a class system. Due to the overcrowding, there is a shortage of water, which automatically means that the bathrooms and toilets are going to be the perfect example of disgusting. But before it gets to its daily point of disgusting, the rich and physically strong get to use it first. There are also special cells that the prisoners refer to as guest houses because of the condition they are in. One in particular has marble floors, its own personal bathroom and toilet. Prisoners who are not as strong or rich cannot use this cell, and if they enter, it is to do the biddings of those who hold the power. Even the prison guards are subservient to those prisoners. The only way to get this prison under control is to decongest it, increase security, and top the medical staff. But that is not easy to do when the state of Mumbai barely has enough for its free citizens. So because of this bad treatment, prisoners don't have any hope for reform when they are eventually released. Mumbai Central Jail is just as bad as this next prison in France that has led to a call for reform in the country's penal system. 9. La Santé Prison, France. Located in Paris, the La Santé prison is the last standing prison in Paris. It is famed for holding high-profile prisoners like left-wing terrorist Carlos the Jackal and French criminal Jacques Mesrine. It was inaugurated in 1867 and was the last site of public execution in France. It has a capacity of 2,000 prisoners, and despite seeming better in appearance now, it was once in a decaying state. And we mean that literally. The ceilings in the prison were falling on the prisoners' heads, and the floors were covered in mold. Most of the windows had defective locks, but only 2 prisoners were able to ever escape alive. But despite the debilitating state of the prison, many of the inmates told their lawyers that they wouldn't like to be moved to another facility because it could be worse than La Santé. In 2014, the prison was emptied so that it could be renovated over the course of 5 years. While the prison is in a good state now, the prisoners are still subjected to poor treatment, and the officials overuse solitary confinement. Exposing the inmates to solitary confinement, where they stay for days, weeks, and months, always has adverse effects on their mental health, which would be a disservice to citizens when they are eventually released. But their use of solitary confinement hasn't caused as much issues for them as it has caused for this prison in the United States that is considered one of the worst in the world. 8. Red Onion State Prison, USA. The USA is considered a human's right utopia until it gets to the prisons, and the reality of the lives of inmates changes everything. It is evident in Red Onion State Prison, which was built in 1995. It cost a total of $70 million to build this prison that has now turned into a constant reminder of what your life could be like if you turn to a life of crime. One of the major issues inmates have with this prison is the overuse of solitary confinement for punishing prisoners when they air the officials or are just not liked. Many of the prisoners spend at least 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. The truth behind Red Onion State Prison only came to light when an inmate revealed it on prison radio. Johnson, the inmate, revealed that at least 6 prisoners had set themselves on fire in an attempt to be transferred to another facility. They were protesting the abuse they were facing at the prison, but one prisoner claimed that he set himself on fire out of desperation. The men set themselves on fire using electrical outlets, and after they were treated for electrical burns, they were cleared to be sent back to the facility. Another inmate claimed that he was exposed to verbal, physical, and psychological abuse. The head of the Virginia Department of Corrections dismissed the rumors of inmates being treated poorly. He claimed that human rights activists fighting against the poor treatment of prisoners just wanted to abolish prisons and make Virginia unsafe for its citizens. So in essence, the prisoners were protesting in vain, and there is no hope of the prison getting any better. But despite the mistreatment of inmates at this jail, it is nothing compared to this next prison located in Russia, where the prisoners live in constant fear of the guards. 7. Vladimir Central Prison, Russia. In Hollywood, Russian prisons are portrayed as some sort of torture chamber, and while this is inaccurate most times, the Vladimir Central Prison fits the description. It was built over 200 years ago, and despite how much time has passed, not much has changed. When the prison was visited by reporters, 4 prisoners with shaved heads claimed that they didn't have any issues with how they were being treated. But when they are under the watch of a guard behind a heavy door, what do we expect them to say? The truth about this prison is told by former inmates who have revealed that overcrowding is the least of the issues they face in this facility. The guards torture the inmates with the sole aim of destroying them psychologically. When the prisoners are not being sent to solitary confinement, they are denied medical attention that leads to widespread diseases. However, this jail is nothing compared to the literal torture chamber you are about to see next. 6. Copaque Prison, Russia. Copaque Prison is the Russian prison you see in your favorite shows. There is not a lot of information about when this prison was built, but some of the former inmates have shared insight into the prison. A former inmate revealed that the guards would gather in the prisons and the bathroom and ask them to strip. While naked, they will be asked to hold the shower and spread their legs apart, after which the guards would start beating them for no reason. When the prisoners are in solitary confinement, they hear the sounds of other prisoners screaming and pleading as they get battered. Most of what was happening at the prison was perfectly hidden until a 2012 riot that turned the entire prison upside down. The prisoners went on a hunger strike as they begged for help, citing the inhumane physical and psychological abuse they were suffering. In a bid to sway the public's opinion, the officials claimed the prisoners were protesting because they were requesting phones and drugs, which was against the rules. So if the officials could lie in this manner to maintain their image, what wouldn't they do to the prisoners after the riot? The Copaque prison is just as bad as the prison that physically restricts free movement for its prisoners. And now to our ultimate pick, we have the El Salvadoran prison called CECOT. This is the terrorism confinement center located in El Salvador. But it would interest you to know that this place isn't filled with the kind of terrorists you know. They are mostly gang members, but the most dangerous ones. And because of the nature of their crimes, human rights are only a myth in this prison. Every day, the prisoners are stripped down to their undergarments and made to gather in the prison's large hall sitting on the floor. This is to ensure that they don't have any contrabands hidden inside their clothes. While it seems like a humiliation ritual, it's the only way to prevent revenge killings in a prison filled with rival gang members. And although this seems like bad news, it may be nothing compared to this central prison in Thailand. 5. Bang Kuang Prison, Thailand. The Bang Kuang prison is a men's prison that houses majorly foreign prisoners, inmates on death row, and long-sentence prisoners. But despite it being a prison where everyone should be equal, since they are all criminals, there is still a level of inequality that exists. This inequality is peddled by the prison guards and officials who are able to mistreat prisoners and get away with no consequences. The abuse that the prisoners start before they are even arrested. They are first subjected to brutality during their arrests, after which they are taken to the detention center where they face more abuse. When they are finally sentenced, they are faced with beatings at the slightest provocation. The people who suffer the most are migrants, poor people, and people from marginalized ethnicities. Since the staff don't get paid enough, they are more inclined to accept bribes from prisoners who want preferential treatment. And the most shocking part about this is that the prison system is built in a way that the prison guards do not need to report to the prison governor. So even if the inmates were to report the poor treatment they suffer to the highest official, the officers doing all that wouldn't get punished. The bad treatment also extends to the state of the healthcare system in the prison. There is an overflow of diseases like AIDS in the cells, and the inmates don't have adequate access to the care they deserve. But despite all the mistreatment at this prison, it is nothing compared to the next prison that was handled by the prisoners with the guards sidelined. 4. Lamodel, Colombia. The Lamodel prison, located in Bogotá, Colombia, is home to some of the most notorious gang members for crimes like murder, drug trafficking, and more. However, they didn't let their incarceration stop their dangerous ways. This prison is one of the only prisons in the world that allows inmates to bear arms, and it has been their undoing. Between 1999 and 2001, over 100 inmates went missing. But what eventually made the government step up was after a bloody massacre that happened in 2000. Different gang members clashed, which led to the disappearance of 17 inmates. There was obviously no way these inmates disappeared into thin air, so people started to spread rumors that the prisoners were killed and buried inside tunnels. Per usual, the prison officials denied the existence of such graves. So where did the prisoners go? Did they escape from the prison, or were they hiding within the facility? Well, no matter the answer, the event made the government sit up. They started by closing all the personal shops in the prison and increasing security. However, they did not do the most important thing, which was to ban the prisoners from bearing arms. It is only a matter of time before the facility becomes a mass graveyard. While the treatment in this place is inhumane, it is nothing compared to what happens at the prison in the heart of Equatorial Guinea, where many of the prisoners were sentenced without committing crimes. 3. Black Beach, Equatorial Guinea. Sometimes inhumane prison treatment doesn't just show up as overcrowding and inaccessibility to good food and healthcare. In places like the Black Beach prison, it can show up as false accusations and ridiculously long prison sentences. After one of the prisoners from this facility, located in Equatorial Guinea, was able to share his experience, he revealed that he was sentenced for no reason. He had gone to Rome on a business trip from Italy when he and his friend were arrested. They were accused of conspiring in a coup against the then president. It was evident that they just needed people to take the fall for a failed coup, and they were pinning it on random people. He received almost 60 years in jail with no option to contact a lawyer or his family so he could get a free and fair trial. An activist got sentenced to 80 years in jail for the same coup, even though it seemed like he had nothing to do with it. The prisoners are not given access to healthcare, and they are also denied communication with their families or a lawyer. So their human right was snatched from them, and because of the unsanitary condition of the prison, there is almost no hope of a better life for the prisoners. This just might be the worst prison in this video, or is it? 2. Gani Prison, Georgia. Georgia is not a country you hear of a lot, but when you do, it is most times about them implementing a new rule or reform. But that has not always been the case for their prisons, as the nation's inmates have been suffering a cruel fate at the hand of the officials placed in charge of them. The country only chose to act when the world found out, and the evidence was damning. So what happened was, in 2012, a video surfaced online. The video showed the reality of life in Gani Prison, where inmates were beaten mercilessly and one was getting sexually assaulted with a broom. Family members of the inmate got ready to storm the prison when the video went viral, and the government knew they had to step in. Their first line of action was to fire every single prison official across the country and were replaced by patrol police officers. The government then went on to claim that the video was shared by the opposition party to prevent the president from getting a second term. No matter who released it, the video exposed just how corrupt prisons can be and why reform is needed at every level of power. But no matter how bad a prison is, there is always one that is worse, just like this one in North Korea. 1. Camp 14, North Korea. North Korea has never been an ideal place, even for its free citizens. So imagine how bad things are for the prisoners. Well, you don't have to imagine, because you are about to find out. Camp 14, also called Kachin Internment Camp, is a political prison in North Korea. In case you are wondering what a political prison is, it is basically a place where people whom the government perceive have opposing political views are detained. But individuals are never detained alone, as their family members are also locked up with them. There was a person who managed to escape the prison, but now lives in constant fear and trauma. He was born in the prison and escaped when he was 23 years old, but that was not without a taste of pain. The only way to survive in the camp was by reporting whoever breached the rules. So when he overheard his mother planning to help his little brother escape, he had to tell his teacher in the prison. He then had to watch his mother get hanged publicly, while his brother died by a firing squad, and he felt no single emotion watching that happen. Officials at the prison could beat and sexually assault whomever they wanted to. When 2 former prison guards from Camp 14 and another political prison were interviewed, they talked about their atrocities with glee. It was almost as if they enjoyed causing people pain, and the director of the interview claimed that one had a sadistic smile. It's almost as if everyone who has passed through the prison in whatever capacity was desensitized to what happened there. Even the detainee who escaped claimed that his mother was killed because she did something wrong. While we can't fault a person for what they grew up in, it is interesting to see how trauma can make a person accept their pain as normal. So we have come to the end of this video. Do you think prisoners need to be treated with less hostility? Or is there some sort of change that can come with inhumane treatment of prisoners? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more intriguing facts and news.